Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, starting new chapter, chapter 12, the perfect society, 4 spiritual classes. So previously we read perfect society, 4 social classes. Now the spiritual classes. So Naraji is further speaking to Maharaj Yudhishthira. Next one. Shri Narad Uvacha Brahmachari Gurukule Vasandhanto Gurorhitam Acharandasvan Nicho Guru Sudrida Sohritaha. Narad Muni said, a student should practice completely controlling his senses. He should be submissive and should have an attitude of firm friendship for the spiritual master. With a great vow, the brahmachari should live at the Gurukul only for the benefit of the Guru. So the brahmachari, the qualities of brahmacharis are mentioned here. Complete control of his senses, should be submissive, should have an attitude of firm friendship for the spiritual master. And with great vow, and means if should be firmly fixed, he should live at Gurukul, and for what? Not to make money, only for the benefit of the Guru. So in Vedic times, everybody would send his son to Gurukul. Whether, no, doesn't matter, Kshatriya, Brahman, Vaishya, Shudra, doesn't matter. Everybody would. And when they get trained in the Gurukul, under a Guru, living like this, because Gurukul means for brahmacharis only. And then the Guru, while watching, while teaching, while instructing, while training all these brahmacharis, then he would see the inclinations of all the students. Then he would decide, okay, this person could be a Brahman, this person would be a Kshatriya, then Vaishya, and then Shudra. And because the gurus were not biased, they were not paid off by the family members, so they would just tell, okay, although he looks like Shudra, but it's okay, he can be a Brahman or something like that. No. And then his training would be on those lines, whether if it's going to be a Brahman, then his training would be like that. If it's Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra. So it's not like today's education system. This is a course from 1st to 12th, and you have to do it. There's no option, or at least 1st to 10th, because 10th, then you decide whether you want to go to science or commerce or arts major or whatever. It's like if there is an elephant, a horse, a donkey, a turtle, or a rabbit, and the teacher says, okay, today we're going to test you who can climb on the tree. Well, obviously the elephant cannot climb on the tree, the horse cannot climb on the tree, but that doesn't mean they don't have any other qualities. But this was the advantage of Gurukul system, because then the Guru would teach accordingly. And right now the system is, okay, everybody has to study history and science and math and whatever is taught in the school. And obviously not everybody likes those subjects. So what to do? But they have to pass the exam because this is the system. And if they don't, then, and if they don't have any inclination for studies, if the person has inclination for, I just want to fix cars, I don't want to study math and biology and this and that. But in the school system, there is no such option. So there are some inherent problems with the modern day education system. And then if that kind of student sits in the class who has no inclination whatsoever, and teacher is teaching, what is he going to do? Is he going to sit straight and listen? And he's not. He'll be creating trouble in the class before the teacher, or during the teachers, when he's teaching, and after the teacher is gone. But it takes lots of effort to educate young minds, and especially if they don't respect the teacher. Here, at least, um, they have the option of not sitting in the class. They can go out. Nobody will say them no. But in India, we know how difficult it is. And now, especially with the new system, I don't know if it has changed or not. That you cannot fail anybody until whatever ninth grade or so. And so, who's going to listen to the teachers? And if the students think their parents are making more money than the teacher, where is the respect going to come from? It's very difficult. Because I had this experience in our museum. We used to get many schools and teachers would come, and these boys came from some schools, some government school, and they were from 12th, 11th, 12th grade. And they were so rowdy, so rowdy. They created so much of mess in the museum. In fact, they beat up one of the workers, and I had to take the boys to the police. Even the cops were saying, Roger, we cannot do anything. They are juvenile. We cannot do anything. So whatever you can settle, you just settle, and that's it. And even the teacher, I was very angry at, and he said, I understand whatever you are saying, you're right, but I just cannot do anything to train them. But this was not the case in Gurukul system. So that's why the Gurukul system was the best, and the British, this is what they did. They just completely abolished the Gurukul system because their main aim, and they understood, if the Gurukul system goes on, they cannot conquer India completely. And this is what they just hit. This Gurukul system brought in the English education system, and we are still following that. And it's not producing the students or the kind of students, kind of society that we should have. It's not producing that. Okay, so in Gurukul, what was a standard? Sayam pratar upasita gurvanyarka surottaman sandeo bhecha yatvaga japan brahma samahitaha. At both junctions of day and night, namely in the early morning and in the evening, he should be fully absorbed in thoughts of the spiritual master, fire, the sun god, and Lord Vishnu, and by chanting Gayatri Mantra, he should worship them. Now, ISKCON is trying with the Gurukul system, trying to give both the education, spiritual and material, and has some success, but it will take a long time. Because parents generally think, what does my child, why he should get up early morning, not even 3:30 a.m. he's gonna get up. It's time for him to enjoy life. watch late night movies and sleep late, get up late. That's not the time for him to get up at 3:30 and do this chanting and wear dhoti kurta. That's that's another problem. छंदास्य धीयेत गुरुर आहुतिश्चेत सुयंत्रितः उपक्रमे अवसाने च चरणो शिरसा नमे. Being called by the spiritual master, the student should study the Vedic mantras regularly. Every day before beginning his studies and at the end of his studies, the disciple should respectfully offer obeisances unto the spiritual master. Should respectfully offer obeisances. And in these days, schools, who goes and pays obeisances to the teacher? Nobody. As soon as the teacher turns towards the blackboard, they throw chalk at him. But this is so that he respects the spiritual master. And the thing is, the knowledge, especially the spiritual knowledge, it's not just a theoretical knowledge. We cannot just study or understand by reading the Sanskrit shlokas. Even if somebody is a scholar of Sanskrit, when he respects his guru, then the knowledge or realizations or real import of those Sanskrit shlokas, they get transferred. That's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, right? About Guru, just approach a Guru and humbly render service and then ask questions. Mekhla jin vasansi jata danda kamandaloon bibreyad upavitam cha darbha panir yathoditam. Carrying pure kusha grass in his hand, the brahmachari should dress regularly with a belt of straw and with deerskin garments. He should wear matted hair, carry a rod and mortar pot, and be decorated with sacred thread, as recommended in the Shastras. Why? So that, first of all, complete control of the senses, and these are the dress. This is the dress of somebody who's completely detached, and that is the only way to make progress. Not by watching TV and unlimited time on the internet and have full access to everything on the net by your smartphones. So complete control of the senses, especially when somebody is a brahmachari, is very much required. Sayam pratashchared bhakshyam guruve tannivedayet bhunjita yadya yag anugyato na chedu pavaset kvachit. The brahmachari should go out morning and evening to collect alms, and he should offer all that he collects to the spiritual master. He should eat only if ordered to take food by the spiritual master. Otherwise, if the spiritual master does not give this order, he may sometimes have to fast. So very strict. If he is ordered to take food by the spiritual master, he should eat, otherwise he should fast. And many times spiritual master wants to test his disciple also, so they would pretend that they forgot to give the order. Sushilo mitbhug daksha shraddhano jitendriyaha yavadartham vyavarhet strishu stri nirjiteshu chaha. A brahmachari should be quite well behaved and gentle and should not eat or collect more than necessary. He must always be active and expert, fully believing in the instructions of the spiritual master and the Shastra. Fully controlling his senses, he should associate only as much as necessary with women or those controlled by women. Means those men who are controlled by women. A brahmachari should be very careful not to mix with women or with men addicted to women. Although when he goes out to beg alms, it is necessary to talk with women and with men who are very much attached to women. This association should be very short, and he should talk with them only about begging alms and not more. A brahmachari should be very careful in associating with men who are attached to women. Why? Because then they will only talk about women, and the senses are so difficult to control. It's very, very difficult. So only as much as necessary. And there is a story of Chota Haridas in Chaitanya Leela. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was in Jagannath Puri, so he was invited for lunch at different places. So there was an associate, Sikhi Mahiti, he invited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he didn't have the rice, the best kind of rice that he wanted to offer to Mahaprabhu. So he asked this brahmachari, Chota Haridas, to go and get some rice from the house of a householder. And when Chota Haridas went there, the husband wasn't there, only lady was there, and he just begged the rice and came back. He didn't spend time over there. But when Mahaprabhu came and he inquired, and then he found out Chota Haridas had gone to this lady's house, and although being a brahmachari, he talked to her and he brought the rice. He just said, I will not see the face of Chota Haridas. He just discarded him completely. Everybody begged him. Everybody begged Mahaprabhu, please don't give him that kind of punishment. But he was very strict. So in the end, Chota Haridas, he committed suicide because he could not take it, not being in the service of Mahaprabhu. But then what had happened was Chota Haridas was very good in singing. So in the form of a ghost, he would come and sing bhajans, which Mahaprabhu would listen to. And obviously later he got liberated. But going by the point that Mahaprabhu was very, very strict, very strict. That this is how brahmacharis should behave. Varjayet pramadaagatham agrihasto brihadvritaha indriyani brahmathini haranti api yatera manaha. A brahmachari, or one who has not accepted the grihastha ashram, family life, must rigidly avoid talking with women or about women. For the senses are so powerful that they may agitate even the mind of a sannyasi, a member of the renounced order of life. So brahmacharya essentially means a vow not to marry, but to observe strict celibacy, brihad vrata. A brahmachari or sannyasi should avoid talking with women or reading literature concerning talks between men and women. The injunction restricting association with women is a basic principle of spiritual life. Associating or talking with women is never advised in any of the Vedic literatures. The entire Vedic system teaches one to avoid sex life so that one may gradually progress from brahmacharya to grihastha, from grihastha to vanprastha, and from vanprastha to sannyas, and thus give up material enjoyment, which is the original cause of bondage to this material world. The word brihad vrita refers to one who has decided not to marry, or in other words, not to indulge in sex life throughout his entire life. You see, so brahmachari, one who has not accepted the grihastha ashram. So from brahmachari, either now the guru would see if he's a Nashtik brahmachari, then he can straight away continue to Vanprasth. And if he's not, then he can take up Grihastha ashram and then later on get to Vanprasth and sannyas. So the point was to mold one's life in such a way that one makes progress spiritually. So if a brahmachari is given nice training, and then he decides later on to take up Grihastha ashram, because people have to get married and carry on with Grihastha ashram. But that training that he got as a brahmachari, that would make him a very good Grihastha also. Because he knows the value of spiritual life. He knows the value of progress. He knows the value of spirituality. He won't be a Grihmedi. He would really be a Grihastha. And another thing, this Gurukul is not for girls. It's nowhere it is mentioned that the girls can get the same training. So girls, they get their own training from whichever school they go to or from their mothers. And the idea is to become an ideal Grihastha, ideal husband and ideal wife. Not just for eat, drink, and be merry. केश प्रसाद धनोन्मर्द सप्नाभ्यंजनादिकम गुरु स्त्रीभिर युवतिभिः कार्येनात्मनो युवा. If the wife of the spiritual master is young, a young brahmachari should not allow her to care for his hair, massage his body with oil, or bathe him with affection like a mother. The relationship between the student or disciple and the wife of the spiritual master or teacher is like that between son and mother. A mother sometimes cares for her son by combing his hair, massaging his body with oil, or bathing him. Similarly, the wife of the teacher is also a mother, Guru Patni, and therefore she may also care for the disciple in a motherly way. But if the wife of the teacher is a young woman, however, a young brahmachari should not allow such a mother to touch him. This is strictly prohibited. There are 7 kinds of mothers: Atma Mata, Guru Patni, Brahmani, Rajpatnika, Dhenur, Dhatri, Tatha Prithvi, Saptaita, Matra, Smrita. These mothers are the original mother, the wife of the teacher or spiritual master, the wife of a Brahman, the king's wife, the queen, the cow, the nurse, and the earth. Unnecessary association with women, even with one's mother, sister, or daughter, is strictly prohibited. This is human civilization. A civilization that allows men to mix unrestrictedly with women is an animal civilization. In Kali Yuga, people are extremely liberal, but mixing with women and talking with them as equals actually constitutes an uncivilized way of life. Wow. That is Bhagavatam, very strict. So the relationship between student and the wife of the spiritual master or teacher is like that between son and mother. And obviously, wife of spiritual master or teacher is like mother. But if she is young, and so she should not deal with the brahmacharis the same way an old mother would. So many restrictions are there. Nanvagni pramadana grit kumbha samah puman sutama piraho jayan anyada yavadarth krita. Women is compared to fire and man is compared to a butter pot. Therefore, A man should avoid associating even with his own daughter in a secluded place. Similarly, he should also avoid association with other women. One should associate with women only for important business and not otherwise. If a butter pot and fire are kept together, the butter within the pot will certainly melt. Women is compared to fire and the man is compared to a butter pot. However advanced one may be in restraining the senses, it is almost impossible for a man to keep himself controlled in the presence of a woman. Even if she is his own daughter, mother, or sister. Indeed, his mind is agitated even if one is in the renounced order of life. Therefore, Vedic civilization carefully restricts mingling between men and women. If one cannot understand the basic principle of restraining association between man and women, he is to be considered an animal. That is the purport of this verse. So even though Prabhupada is Mahabhagavad, pure devotee, but even Prabhupada would be so careful. Even when his sister Pishima would come to see him in Mayapur, Prabhupada would make sure that one of his servants was in the room when Pishima was there to talk to her. Even though both were old, both must be in their 70s, but still Prabhupada would take care. He would make sure one of his servants is in the room. Although the servant won't understand the Bengali that they were speaking, but he would just ask him to be there. That's all. So the point is one has to be very careful. Nothing, of course, in a perverted way, this becomes like women are Maya. No. Maya is everywhere around us. Everywhere, inside us, around us, outside, inside, everywhere. Maya is there. Maya means the tendency to enjoy our senses. And that tendency is always there. In fact, it is even said, one should not even look at the mannequins or paintings of women because one's mind can get agitated. And these days, the mannequins, how they dress them, or the big hoardings of different movies or advertisements, they're so the way they place them and the way they make them, it's completely it can capture one's mind. I mean, I've seen some video clips where a man would just be walking by, and then you see on the posters, some movie actresses are there, and their posters being pasted on a wall, and he just stopped at the poster and he was kissing that woman figure in the poster. It's paper and ink, but this is how Maya can control us. It is very difficult these days to restrain the senses because it's all around us, all around. And that is why these injunctions are there. And do not be alone, even if the woman is daughter, your own daughter, mother, or sister. Kalpitvatmana yavadabhasam idam ishvaraha dvaitam tavanna virame tato hiyasya viparyaya. As long as the living entity is not completely self-realized, as long as he is not independent of the misconception of identifying with his body, which is nothing but a reflection of the original body and senses, he cannot be relieved of the conception of duality, which is epitomized by the duality between man and woman. Thus, there is every chance that he will fall down because his intelligence is bewildered. So, as long as he's not independent of the misconception, but even if somebody is self-realized, he still doesn't want to take chances. He never says I'm self-realized, and he says, "Oh, I need to be just very, very careful." Here is another important warning that a man must save himself from attraction to women. Until one is self-realized, fully independent of the illusory conception of the material body, the duality of man and women must undoubtedly continue. But when one is actually self-realized, this distinction ceases, because then he sees everybody as a soul, not the body. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. On this spiritual platform, the learned person not only gives up the duality of man and woman, but also gives up the duality of man and animal, because then he sees everybody as a spirit soul. This is the test of self-realization. One must realize perfectly that the living being is spirit soul, but is tasting various types of material bodies. One may theoretically understand this, but when one has practical realization, then he actually becomes a Pandit, one who knows. Pandit means one who knows. So actually, theoretically, we all know this. But how much we have realizations, how much we have practice, practical experience, hard to say. Until that time, the duality continues and the conception of man and women also continues. In this stage, one should be extremely careful about mixing with women. No one should think himself perfect and forget the Shastric injunction that one should be very careful about associating even with his own daughter, mother, or sister, not to speak of other women. So as I said, the point is we have to do our best to make progress spiritually. That's all. Sometimes some sadhus or transcendentalists, they get so serious they don't even want to look at any female animals either, because the mind can get distracted. But there is another problem or issue or concern. See, we are in the material world, that's for sure. So means we are all conditioned souls. And we all have plenty of desires from the previous lifetimes. And different kind of sanskaras we all have. So when we start taking up spiritual practices or start taking them up seriously, then the cleansing of the heart starts happening. And means all those desires, they were just down there, and they all start to come back up in front of us. They start becoming more and more prominent. And the most not important, I mean most significant desire is the sex desire. Actually, that is a desire that is keeping us in the material world. And sex means not just the physical sex, it could be subtle sex desire also. So it is not uncommon, or actually it is very, very common that a person who is trying to make spiritual progress, he has to deal with the sexual desires more than any other desire. They come to bother the spiritualist more than anything else. It's there. So only thing is one got to be very careful. That's all. And at the same time, yes, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was a leader, he had to set an example, or he had to set the principles correctly. Um, but since we know we all are fallen, and if we find somebody is having problems, we should be very, very compassionate and very helpful for him or her. It's just like if we see somebody having physical problems, health issues, or maybe handicapped, then we will all run. We'll develop compassion and we try to help that person, don't we? And if somebody has mental problems, emotional problems, depression, or others, there are so many tons and tons of issues these days. We try to counsel them. We try to do everything possible to help that person. Why not help selflessly when somebody has spiritual problems? See, our problem is at that time we tend to become, well, I'm a pure devotee and I don't want to deal with you anymore. If somebody has spiritual problems, in fact, at that time he needs the most help, he or she, whatever. So, and understand, we should understand this is what Krishna wants us to do, help that person. Compassion, the quality of compassion has to be there to help somebody, not to exploit anybody's problems, not to um, put those problems on WhatsApp or Facebook, but try to help selflessly. Of course, at the same time, we got to be careful that while helping somebody, we don't get um, pulled away from our devotional practices. But we got to help without becoming judgmental. Just got to help. That's all it is. That's all how we make progress. We just got to help. And knowing that these desires, they come in front so much when somebody is trying to make progress spiritually. It's amazing. And actually, at that time, one starts thinking, why did I take up this process? I was doing much better without this. But at least we should know that cleansing is taking place. But it takes long time for the cleansing. Not that easy. Because the desires are there since times immemorial. So further, Prabhupada says, Srila Madhvacharya cites the following shloka in this regard. Unity in variety is real knowledge, and therefore giving up variety artificially does not reflect perfect knowledge of monism. According to the Achintya Bheda Bhed philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there are varieties, but all of them constitute one unit. Such knowledge is a knowledge of perfect oneness. Means perfect oneness means we all are spirit souls. The variety that we see because of our duality means difference between body and soul is different bodies, but we should look at the soul. And even in the soul, there are varieties because every soul has a different relationship with Krishna. But at the same time, soul means pure, transcendental spirit soul, divine spirit soul. So we should be able to come to that point. Etat sarvam grihasthasya samamnatam yaterapi guruvrittirvikalpena grihasthas yaturgamina. All the rules and regulations apply equally to the householder and the sannyasi, the member of the renounced order of life. The grihastha, however, is given permission by the spiritual master to indulge in sex during the period favorable for procreation. It is sometimes misunderstood that a grihastha, a householder, is permitted to indulge in sex at any time. This is a wrong conception of grihastha life. In spiritual life, whether one is a grihastha, vanpra, sannyasi, or brahmachari, everyone is under the control of the spiritual master. For brahmacharis and sannyasis, there are strong restrictions on sexual indulgence. Similarly, there are strong restrictions for grihasthas also. Grihastha should indulge in sex life only in accordance with the order of the Guru. Therefore, it is mentioned here that one must follow the orders of the spiritual master, Guru Vrittir Vikalpena. When the spiritual master orders, the grihastha may accept sex life. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Dharma Viruddho Bhuteshu Kamo Asmi. Indulgence in sex life without disobedience to the religious rules and regulations constitutes a religious principle. The grihastha is allowed to indulge in sex life during the period favorable for procreation and in accordance with the spiritual master's order. If the spiritual master's order allow a grihastha to engage in sex life at a particular time, then the grihastha may do so. Otherwise, if the spiritual master orders against it, the grihastha should abstain. The grihastha must obtain permission from the spiritual master to observe the ritualistic ceremony of Garbhadhan Sanskar. Then he may approach his wife to beget children, otherwise not. A Brahman generally remains a brahmachari throughout his entire life. But although some Brahmans become grihasthas and indulge in sex life, they do so under the complete control of the spiritual master. The Kshatriya is allowed to marry more than one wife, but this also must be in accordance with the instructions of the spiritual master. It is not that because one is a grihastha, he may marry as many times as he likes and indulges in sex life as he likes. This is not spiritual life. In spiritual life, one must conduct one's whole life under the guidance of the Guru. Only one who executes his spiritual life under the direction of the spiritual master can achieve the mercy of Krishna. If one desires to advance in spiritual life, but he acts whimsically, not following the orders of the spiritual master, he has no shelter. Yasya prasadat na gati kutopi. Without the spiritual master's order, even the grihastha should not indulge in sex life. So the point is, one should try to make advancement, even as a grihastha. So some permission is there, but it's not unrestricted permission for sense enjoyment, even as a grihastha. So one should just try his best. I know it's difficult when one partner wants to make advancement spiritually and the other partner is not ready. Uh, and then there is always some issues at home, some um, discord, disagreements, and arguments. So all I say always is just try to do the best one can, because harmony at home should also be kept properly. Until there is harmonious relationship at home, it'll be very, very difficult to even carry on with devotion services, forget about making progress. So the harmonious relationship at home, even if the partner is not ready spiritually, but if Krishna has given us this partner, this responsibility, and the responsibility of the family, children, in-laws, other relatives, then Krishna must have thought of something best for us, good for us. So all we try to do is make the best possible attempt to take care of everybody, to serve everybody, and still make progress spiritually. So that is the best way. Fighting or any other arguments or other things at home, they don't help. They don't help anybody. So what's the point with that? So I guess I'll stop here. I'm pretty sure there must be many questions or comments. So let's get to those.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I don't think any scripture in the world has got so refined methodology like we have in Sanatana. Something which is mentioned, how you treat, how you be disciplined in your when you're when you're interacting with even your mother and sister. So you have to keep a distance. So it's just too good. I mean, it's not given. I mean, I would accept that it's given like 3-4 things you just avoid, maybe gambling or something, illicit relationship and all. But so deep, it's not given anywhere. How with like what you mentioned, spiritual masters, how do you them and all this thing, Gurukul Parampara and all.
Yeah.
Not given anywhere, bro.
Yeah, I know. So thanks to Prabhupada, he has brought all of us to this level that we can discuss, and these books are there for everybody. Anybody can read and learn.
Prabhuji, but then on the other hand, don't name someone because that would be like political issue. But someone called Khadge, he said that Sanatan Dharma, if the PM will be there, then Sanatan Dharma will be completely flourished all across India. Complete nonsense. We ourselves, we are diminishing the whole thing, the entire parampara.
Exactly. One PM cannot change 135 crore people. It has to come from within us. What do we want?
Also, if you are in the same, if you follow it, you have that name, and then you're saying Sanatan, it becomes Sanatan. It was Sanatan actually. it just finished. I mean, it just in Hindi we call it vilupt ho jana kisi cheez ka. It got finished because of our humbleness, and we were not kind of into conversions and all this. We were following all the principles. So
we stopped following.
Yeah.
I mean, we means our ancestors, or maybe we were there, and the soul is there. Soul was there, so we stopped following. Sanatan Dharma was all over the world. Even up till Parikshit Maharaj's rule, it was all over the world. But then slowly, Kali Yuga started taking hold and people stopped following. We have to start following and not expect the leadership to do it. And then slowly, it can grow again. It's not, because this is the dharma of the soul, not of the body. It's of the soul. So it can come back. It's not a big deal.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. So I guess we can stop here. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Jai Shri